In this video, we're going to learn how to send an invoice via Square. Square is an incredibly popular resource online for doing credit card transactions and things of that nature. And so we're just going to jump right in and learn how to do that. So we're going to go ahead and sign in. And you'll notice I have got 1Password installed here. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in, pass my credentials through with 1Password. If you haven't used 1Password yet, then maybe you should check out my video. I'll put a card up here where you can take a look at my kind of beginner's guide to 1Password. It'll make your life so much easier. But anyway, let's go ahead and log into Square. We're logged into Square successfully. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to jump over to Invoice. You can either click on it over here, or you can go to Send an Invoice right here. Let's just hit Send an Invoice. And we're now at the main invoice screen. So I'm going to go ahead and select a customer. I'm going to use myself for this demo. For the invoice details, this is where you want to enter in what this particular invoice is for. You could use just about anything here. You can put any message you want, but let's just call it a professional headshot. The invoice ID automatically increments. You can set that to whatever you want. If you don't want to look like a brand new business, you could put that to a larger random number and then it'll increment from that point. I'm not super concerned about it, so we'll just pretend that this is invoice number 15. For the message, that's where you can enter more detailed information about the particular transaction. In this case, I'm just going to say thank you for your business. So next we head down to the service date. And the service date is just when the transaction took place or when the service was provided. So I'm going to assume that I did the headshot today on August 12th, 2024. So I'll just select that. This is not going to be a recurring invoice. This is just a one-time invoice. But if you were going to do a recurring invoice, say you were going to do something like offer credit card payments, and split that across a certain number of monthly payments, that's where you would set that. I want this to send immediately. You could set this to send the invoice at the end of the week or in 30 days or some other random variable. I'm going to go ahead and send it today. And then I'm going to make it due in 7 days. Your default options are upon receipt in 14 days or 30 days. Or obviously you can pick an arbitrary date. I think 7 days usually works good for my customers. They expect the invoice, and so they are usually very prompt in payment. Line items, this is where you're actually going to go and add the individual line items that you have set up in Square before. So in my case, you'll see it brings up a lot of different options. These are things that I've already stored inside of Square in the past to make it easy for checkout for different purchases. Since I mentioned I'm going to do a headshot session, I'm just going to click on headshot session. And you'll notice it has automatically filled in the subtotal, $150, and it's put in the sales tax for my area of $10.88. You can eliminate that if you needed to, but in this case, we'll go ahead and leave it turned on. You can add late fees if you want to. You can add shipping fees or service charges. Likewise, you can add a discount. If you want to give somebody a 10% discount, you just enter 10%. You can say, summer special. Click add, and there you go. We've got a discount built into it to make it $135. It recalculates the tax. If they needed to do payments, then this is where you would hit a payment schedule, and you could tell them exactly how you want to split that payment schedule up. In this case, we're going to avoid that. And then finally, here are the payment options. So you can do a credit or debit card, and this is pretty much just about every type of major credit card is accepted here. You can do an ACH bank transfer, which this just means it'll transfer the money directly from one bank account to your Square account. If you can get people to do this, that's how I would recommend it, because it's often a little bit less expensive to go that route. And then, of course, you can turn on Cash App, Afterpay, or if they have gift cards that they've purchased from you, they can use those. I do not like to use Cash App or Afterpay because as you can see, the fees, the Cash App's not bad, but I just don't want to mess with another app. And Afterpay at 6% is a bit crazy. If that's the only way somebody could pay, then I may make it available, but that would not be my preference. If you got customers that are recurring, you may want to go ahead and just allow them to save the payments on file. That's stored on Square's website, not yours. So that makes it a little bit more convenient for the consumer. So that's up to you. If you're in a business where they can leave a tip, of course you'd want to turn it on, because that would allow them to write in a tip for the invoice. Our next step is we jump down as we go into the communication, and this is where we would put an email. We can send a text, or if we just want to have a link that we want to send to somebody, we can do that. I prefer to send it via email. Find Square's email services are pretty robust, and messages tend to not end up in spam or anything like that. So I definitely recommend that, but text works as well. We have 4 active reminders. These are on by default. So you've got the 7 days before due date. You've got the on due date. You've got 1 day after, and then 3 days after. You can adjust these however you see fit. Again, I think these are pretty good for my businesses, so I leave it that way. If you were going to do shipping, this is where you would add the shipping information, and you could actually have this send it over to your shipping manifest or your shipping service so that you could expedite that process. You also have the ability to do contracts with Square or create your own contracts. If you've got your own contracts, it just makes it a little bit easier to have it all in one place. The attachments, again, if you were sending somebody a document or maybe another contract or a previously signed agreement or something like that, then you can attach that to the invoice here. And finally, you can add custom fields if you are a Square Plus member. That allows you to add any other fields you want to do. So these are the very basics. One thing I forgot to mention is if you have barcode set up in your system, you could actually just hit this little barcode button and scan the item, and it would pop in for your invoice. So finally, let's just see, before we want to send it, we want to take a look at things. So let's hit preview. And preview is going to show you exactly what it's going to look like. This is what's going to go to your customer. So you can see it's got my logo in the top. It's saying, I've sent you an invoice, lists the customer information, the invoice number, the date, the service date, what they got, a sub-description that was entered when I created the item, shows they do have a discount here. They don't see what that 10% discount, they don't see it as a summer savings, but on the back end you do, so you know what that discount was for. Of course, subtotals, and then the required information about your business down below. So that's all there is to it. If you do need to make changes here, you can adjust that by going to account and settings here and change your logo and colors and those type of things. Once you're done, you just hit the X and you're back to the main invoice. And then it's just as simple as hitting send. You could save it as a draft if you just started to put this together but don't want to send it yet. No problem, you can save it as a draft. Or in this case, we'll just hit send. And you can see down below it says invoice was sent. So looking down below, now we see I've got a list of invoices, and you can see I have a number of invoices that all show paid, but then I have an invoice here outstanding for myself. And if I click on that, I'll get the details. That just shows when it's due, when the invoice was sent. If somebody decides to write me a check or something like that, then I can go ahead and mark it as paid just to make it a little bit easier, so I don't have invoices floating around out there. Or if they want to pay by phone, they can call over the phone and you can take a payment that way as well. Of course, my name is in here, but this would be your customer's name. And if you click on that, it gives you their CRM information. So you can pull them up. You can see the last message that was sent to them, any notes on that particular customer. We'll go ahead and close that. When that invoice shows up in my inbox, then I just have the opportunity to pay that invoice right there. In this case, this was an invoice that I'm not going to actually collect on. So what I want to do is I want to cancel this invoice. So the way I would do that is just hit this button here and say cancel. And you can see there are other options here as well. I'm not going to dig into them, but if you needed to, you could drill through those. But for right now, we're just going to cancel this invoice. It's going to say, are you sure you want to cancel this? This can't be undone. It's also going to notify the customer that the invoice was canceled. You have the option of never mind or cancel. We're going to go ahead and hit cancel. And you'll see, there we go, the invoice now shows up as canceled. It did increment one number, so the next invoice I send will be 16. I will not reuse invoice number 15, and this will stay in the database here so that I can see it. Should you need to send this invoice or resend this invoice, you could click on it and say duplicate, and it would create a new invoice with all the details from this previous one. I hope you found this useful. If so, please smash the like button so I have some feedback on that. Also, if you have any other questions about Square or the invoice programs or how to use that, leave a comment below. I'll be happy to answer that. There is a program from Square called Square Plus. If you send a lot of invoices, it actually lowers your rates. I think it's $20 a month for that service. So if you know you're going to be collecting more than $20 a month, then it's kind of wise to turn that on and get that savings from Square. If you have questions on how to add items into Square to like your online store, watch this video right over here.